All right, so this is starting with Chapter 3, Slide Set B, and this is slide number 28. So we talked about active transport in the last lecture, and now we're on vesicular transport, specifically endocytosis. So the first type of endocytosis is phagocytosis, and this is when a lot of times we refer to that as cell eating. So that means that the cell is bringing a solid particles inside of the cell. So membrane projections, actually called pseudopods, flow around the solid particles and form a vesicle, and then pull that solid particle into the cell. The vesicle that contains the solid particles that's now inside the cell, we call that the phagosome. Macrophages and other white blood cells like neutrophils carry out phagocytosis. That's how they engulf bacteria and other germs, pathogens. So the movement of these cells is called amoeboid motion because they move like an amoeba and they kind of creep along, move very slowly. So what we're seeing here is phagocytosis. The cell has formed this, I always want to say indentation, it's formed this, it calls it a projecting pseudopod or false foot. So that's what these are. So this is a pseudopod, and then this one is a pseudopod. So there are these projections, and then you have the kind of like a pit or a hole that's formed around the solid particle, and it encloses it. And now what you have is a phagosome, which you can see part of it here. It's the vesicle that contains the solid particle inside. Pinocytosis is very similar to phagocytosis, but it's referred to as cell drinking because it tends to bring a solution, a fluid, into the cell rather than a solid substance. Whenever the plasma membrane folds around the solution and comes into the cell, instead of being called a phagosome, it's now called an endosome. And we can see pinocytosis going on here. This is a solution where the solute particles are the blue particles that you see, and you can see that the plasma membrane is forming around that solution, and then when it does finally enclose and come into the cell, we call that the vesicle plus the solution inside, we call it the endosome. Now, there's another type of endocytosis that is specific to what it brings into the cell, and it's called receptor-mediated endocytosis. It involves endocytosis and also a process called transcytosis, and the molecules are specific. It does this with very specific molecules. So we saw a picture in the last lecture. Many cells have receptors embedded in clathrin-coated pits. So that was when we first started talking about bulk transport. You saw these molecules called clathrin that were coating the part that forms around the substance being brought into the cell. So that clathrin, remember, it was recycled after it was used. But anyway, examples would be enzymes. A good example that I always hear about is LDLs, or low-density lipoproteins. That's the type of cholesterol that we call the bad cholesterol, low-density lipoproteins, or LDLs. Other substances are iron, insulin, viruses, diphtheria, and cholera, toxins can come into the cell this way, and the cell has specific receptors that bind to these substances. Then we have this term caveolae, and caveolae have smaller pits, and different protein coats instead of clathrin, but they still capture specific molecules, folic acid, the tetanus toxin, and they still use transcytosis. So let's look at how this works. All right, so we have receptors that surround the vesicle that's forming. They surround they're found within the plasma membrane, and they're going to bind to the substance that's being brought into the cell. And then they're going to form a vesicle that's coated with clathrin or something else. But the main thing is that the substance being brought into the cell binds to these receptors, and it's very specific. Only that specific substance will be brought in because it has to be able to bind with those receptors. So let's go back to, let's see if I can find it, where it talks about transcytosis. I skipped it. I don't know if you caught that, but I did. Sorry, I don't remember where I saw it. Here we go. I'm sorry, I just completely missed it. But vesicular transport processes include endocytosis, exocytosis, and transcytosis means transport into, across, and then out of the cell. So a lot of times this happens with substances that are being brought into the cell so that they can fuse with a lysosome and be broken down, and then the waste or the remains are moved out of the cell. And vesicular trafficking is transport from one area or organelle in the cell to another. So these processes can go along with endo and exocytosis. What we saw in this picture is transcytosis, because the particles were brought into the cell, they fused with the lysosome, and then they were the particles that had been broken down or digested, the waste was pushed out of the cell. And it's actually defined here. It says the fused vesicle, the one that fuses with the lysosome, that vesicle may fuse with the lysosome for digestion of its contents, like we see in Part A, or deliver its contents to the plasma membrane on the opposite side of the cell. And that means it basically used the cell as a intermediate transport. It brought the substance in, and now it's bringing the substance out of the cell. But because it's such a large amount of substance, it had to be transported by a vesicle broken off from the plasma membrane. And another thing, too, you may or may not have noticed, but when the plasma membrane forms a vesicle to bring something in, if it leaves the cell by transcytosis, that vesicle then fuses with the plasma membrane. So it like refuses with it and becomes part of the plasma membrane again. So the size of the plasma membrane doesn't get smaller. It breaks off here, and then it kind of adds back to it here. So that way you're not just continuously breaking off bits of the plasma membrane without replacing it. Okay, so let's find the next part is exocytosis, and this is the process where material is ejected from the cell. Sometimes we call it secretion, and the vesicle that moves the substances outside the cell is called the secretory vesicle. The protein on the vesicle, called V-snare, finds and hooks up to the target T-snare proteins on the membrane, and the docking process triggers exocytosis. So some substances that are released by exocytosis are hormones, neurotransmitters, mucus, and cell waste. And here's a picture of the process. We'll just do it one step at a time. So first we have a vesicle inside the cell, and I like this picture because you can see the vesicle is composed of plasma membrane. So it's the same components as I said phospholipids. So it's the same components as the plasma membrane. And so what we have here is the molecule that's going to be secreted. It could be a neurotransmitter, the V-snare protein on the secretory vesicle, and then it's going to the vesicle is going to migrate to the plasma membrane. The V and T snare proteins are going to fuse. Notice they wrap their ends around each other. Then a pore is going to form, and it's going to cause an opening to the outside of the cell. And then the material that's secreted or released by exocytosis is now released to the exterior of the cell. And notice that the vesicle, which was formed had a phospholipid bilayer, is now fused with the plasma membrane and becomes part of it. This is just a microscopic image of exocytosis with material being released outside the cell. All right, this next part is on membrane potential, and we will come back to it in the muscle chapter and the nerve chapter, but I think it's a good time to talk about it. It kind of lends itself, to at least us bringing it up. Resting membrane potential is another way of saying voltage across the plasma membrane. It's a difference in electrical charge between the outside of the plasma membrane and the inside of the plasma membrane. And the key player in establishing the resting membrane potential is the ion potassium. We already know that the concentration of potassium is high inside the cell. Sodium is high outside, potassium is high inside. So when there are potassium leak channels in the plasma membrane, and there are scattered throughout the plasma membrane of our cells, there are potassium leak channels. Potassium is going to diffuse out of the cell, down its concentration gradient out of the cell, right? So potassium diffusing out of the cell causes positive charges to leave the cell. But inside the cell, there are these large proteins that are negatively charged, and they can't leave because they are large. They're too large to leave. So we have negative proteins inside the cell and then positive ions leaving the cell, making it even more negative inside. And then there is a drive for potassium to move back into the cell because it is negative. So the positive potassium is attracted to the negative interior. But that drive for potassium to move into the cell and for potassium to leave the cell, whenever it is balanced, we reach a potential, and it's more negative than it is positive. It's about negative 90 millivolts, and that is called the resting membrane potential. Sodium is another player. Sodium is concentration is high outside the cell, so it's attracted to the inside of the cell. I'm so sorry about that. Sodium is attracted to the inside of the cell for two reasons: because sodium is positive and the inside of the cell is negative, and also because it's concentration gradient. Sodium wants to come inside the cell because the concentration is high outside and low inside the cell. So if sodium enters the cell, it can bring the resting potential up to negative 70 because sodium is positive. So if it comes into the cell, it's going to make the membrane potential less negative. So from 90 to about negative 70. And we can see this whole process illustrated here.